Hi guys, welcome to another lesson. Today we're going to talk about how to play comfortably mid tempos with our bass drum, or either double pedal or double bass drum. Sometimes we have to play parts at speeds that don't allow us to use ankle motions because the BPM is too slow, but it's too fast for just using leg motions. So a bunch of you asked me how to overcome this problem. And there are a couple of solutions. First of all, as we all know, time and space are connected, and so there's only a certain amount of space that we can use to play a certain amount of speed, meaning that we cannot play at 280 BPMs with the same dynamics that we do at 200 BPMs for obvious reasons. So the same thing is applied here, and we have to take advantage of the space that the pedal board or that the pedal allow us to use. So if we go all the way up to the pedal, there's going to be more space for our motion, and instead if we go in the lower part of the pedal, there's going to be way less space. So this can actually help us to find the right spot to play at any speed. So if playing at a certain speed at this part of the pedal is hard, we can go a little bit lower where it requires us to do less motion, so it's more comfortable. Okay, so for example, now we're gonna put a BPM starting from 130 to around 180 and increasing it every time of 10 BPMs, and we'll see more or less where is more comfortable to playing it. But you have to always think of the spring tension. So everybody is going to have a different spring tension, so you guys have to kind of do the same workout at home with your spring tension, and so that you understand how your pedal is reacting, and based on that you will understand where to position your foot on the pedal board. Okay, so at 130 we can still pretty much use a whole leg motion, as you could see, without giving us a lot of effort, and my spring tension is not up to the max, it's just halfway there, so my pedal is not too fast. So you might have to still, as I just said, make sure that you can actually do this at home. But also another thing, remember that the weight of the legs, so the leg motion will always be the pressure of the springs. So if it's very slow, like around 130, you won't have much problem playing leg motions, even if you have a very tight spring. Okay, so at 140 I started from the same place that I started with 130, but it didn't feel comfortable. It felt like kind of I wasn't very stable, exactly for the reason of not being able to do a whole leg motion, but there was some ankle motion that had to be involved. And so just by going a little bit lower on the pedal board, it felt much better. So I would say 140 will start going a little bit backwards on the board and still use a leg motion, not involving too much the ankle. Okay, so at 150 I had to literally go way lower in the on the pedal board and start using ankle motion, which on one side it kind of makes sense to me, because in the previous parts, so 130, 140, I was using a leg motion going in, let's say from the top a little bit lower, and now I'm in a very low part of the pedal board and I'm starting to use ankle motion. So I'm kind of like, if I'm understanding this right, in the next step I will start go up a little bit more, only using ankle motion, so at 160, and then at 170 and 118 I will go on going even further up and just using the ankle motion. Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening here. So it kind of makes sense to me. So we're using leg motion at 130, then leg motion at 140, going lower in the on the pedal board, then starting using ankle motion at 150, going even lower in the on the pedal board, and now we're going back up using only ankle motion at 160. And so this is basically the transition that is happening between going from leg motion to ankle motion. It's made it easier just by going up and down on the pedal board, because the pedal board requires more or less motion based on where we are on when we're playing on it. So I would say that this is what solves the problem, and I'm doing this with like everybody now because after a while that you practice and you reach a certain control of the body, it's like if you don't think about this part, like what part of the body or like where you play on the pedal, you just feel how it's comfortable and you just do it. So when I got these kind of questions, I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I never thought about it. I just worked on controlling my body to a point where I had no issues at any speed. But then it kind of made sense, you know, to really understand. And the first thing that I thought was, well, I'll go and see if going up and down on the pedal board, which requires me different amount of, you know, dynamic motions or range of motions, will help, and it actually does. So let's see now how it will go at 170 BPMs. So yeah, at 170 BPMs, I'm back all the way up on the pedal board, and I'm just using ankle motion, feel very comfortable. So I guess that from here on, I can go on just using ankle motion. So this is what I suggest to do. And of course, the pedal setting has a lot to do with in this case. So if you guys are having a hard time still even going like lower on the pedal and stuff like that, you can adjust the spring tension, because that's what determines the speed that you're playing at. So that's what determines. Some of you will have hard times at 130, some of you 140, 150, 160. That's based a lot of course, on your control of your body, but also at the spring tension that you guys have. So check these things out and try to go up and down on the pedal board. I think that that's going to be the solution for this problem. Another thing, of course, that we have to keep in mind is balance. Okay, so balance, if we are used to playing like this, balance will kind of like get in the way whenever we have to do these kind of things, because we don't have our ankles completely free of just, you know, moving how they want to move and how we need to move them based on the speed that we have to. So balance is something else that we have to check. And not a lot of people talk about this, but there are two different types of balance, in my opinion, which is the balance shifting from upward, like going in the front and backwards, and then right and left. Okay, so sometimes there are people that are used to keeping the hi-hat always open, and so they tend to lean more towards the right, and other people that always kept the hi-hat closed, and so they tend to lean towards the left. Okay, because that's how just the habits that our body gets. So we have to pay attention to that. The head has a lot to do with balance. So let's keep in mind these three things to solve this problem. First one is going up and down on the pedal board, doing leg motion, going from like the slower BPM to a faster, and then going back up using just ankle motion from a fast to even faster speed. Second thing is the pedal setting. So if you're still having hard time, try to loosen up the spring or change the setting in order that it becomes more comfortable, and then check the balance and check that everything, your balance is in the position. And if you're having hard times, check the head, check that you're actually sitting on all the stool and you're not sitting just in front or in a weird way, because that also affects a lot the balance. And so in this way you will solve the problem of playing mid-tempo stuff with your double pedal or double bass drum. So have a good practice, and I'll see you next time.